Today we are diving into the whirlwind that is the current Vancouver and Fraser Valley real estate market. It's a hot topic right now with a lot of moving parts. And whether you're a buyer, a seller, or an investor, you're going to want to stay tuned because this market, it's full of twists and turns that you need to understand. So in this video, what I'm going to do is unpack a little of what's really happening behind the scenes and what it all is going to mean to you. But before we get started, if you're new to this channel, my name is Glen Hopkins, and I create videos all about Canadian real estate and my local market of Surrey and White Rock, BC. So if that's something you're interested in, please go ahead, subscribe to the channel right now. It just takes a second, and that way you won't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. And of course, if you'd like my help with either buying or selling a home here in the Surrey or White Rock area, there is a link in the description box below where you can schedule a call with me. And I should say, if you're anywhere else in Canada and you need a referral to a fantastic agent, don't worry, I've got you covered. I know amazing agents throughout the country that I can gladly connect you with. All right, so let's dive in. First off, let's take a look at the big picture. In the Vancouver Fraser Valley area, listings are still very high. We're seeing sales are still down, but prices are starting to drop. And of course, our regular spring market was a complete dud this year with very little activity compared to what we normally see in the spring months. And it would seem that buyers are just continuing to wait for lower rates and ultimately lower sales prices. And so in the meantime, what's happening is inventory is continuing to build. And I think inventory levels are being compounded with a lot of investor properties that are hitting the market after all of the recent changes that we are seeing, which is more or less forcing investors to sell those units. First off, they're definitely feeling the pinch brought on by the new higher interest rates. Many investors, you remember, they bought their properties a few years back with a 1.5% interest rate, but now they're renewing those rates closer to 5 or 6%. So for example, if you take a $500,000 condo with a 20% down payment, their monthly payment at a 1.5% interest rate would have been around $1,930. And with those numbers and considering what you could rent a one bedroom for, most investor landlords, they were not even breaking even after all of their expenses. And many were paying a few extra $100 every month just to hold on to that unit in hopes of future appreciation. Now, however, having to renew their mortgage at the new interest rate closer to 5%, their monthly payment is going to be closer to $2,345, which means many landlords are facing larger monthly losses on those investments, which most people simply cannot afford. And adding to their woes, Airbnb on secondary properties is no longer allowed, making it even harder to turn a profit. And let's not forget about the recent increase in capital gains tax. And so for most mom and pop landlords, the risk, it far outweighs the reward now. And it makes little sense anymore to hold on to those properties. I mean, rental increases, they're capped at about 3% per year, which means your returns are also capped. And you compare that to, bonds where they're currently yielding around 5% with no risk whatsoever and no work involved whatsoever. And so, that rental unit starts to look a little bit more like a risky investment. And to make matters still worse, BC just rolled out a new rule requiring landlords to give 4 months notice on a tenant eviction. And for both investor landlords and homeowner landlords alike, with a tenant in their basement, this is a real problem. And that's because lenders aren't willing to lock in a rate for that long period of time. Typically, a rate hold is only for 120 days. So, what happens if a buyer makes an offer on a home with a tenant in it and they have to wait that full 4 months before that tenant vacates, only to find out just before closing that rates have gone up and their rate hold period has passed. It's gone by and they no longer qualify for the mortgage, but they're under contract. What happens then? I don't know. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And seriously, on that note, how many buyers really want to wait 4 months to move into a new home? In my personal experience, new homeowners, they're always super eager to move in as soon as possible. And so because all of these things going on in today's market, we're seeing a surge of available properties on the market. And normally what would happen is increased inventory means lower prices and more sales. But there is a catch. Many of these condos, they were built with investors in mind and not regular folks. They're great for students, but they're too small for most families. And let's be honest, first-time home buyers are still finding them out of reach. They're just too expensive still. And those condos that are selling, the ones that are more suitable for the end user, have actually increased in value compared to last month. So, as you can see, there are a lot of nuances within the market. And frankly, it's different in every submarket and with every asset class. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to explain where prices are currently sitting and what my predictions are for the coming months in the real estate market. But first, do me a favor, if you're getting any value out of this video whatsoever, go ahead, hit that like button. It just takes a second, but it helps me get the word out to other people just like you looking for this information. All right, so as I previously mentioned, listings are definitely up, sales are down, yet prices have held pretty steady. But in the Fraser Valley, prices are starting to drop, at least for townhouses and detached homes. And, after all, prices can only hold on in this climate for so long. But like I also said, when looking at the prices of condos in the Fraser Valley, they are actually on the rise compared to last month. So where does all of this leave us? My prediction is that overall, we're going to see prices start to drop in the coming months, as a lot of those 3-month listings that are out there right now, those 3-month listings are going to expire, and then they're going to get relisted at lower prices. However, because of the typical 3-month listing contract, it often takes 2 to 3 months before market prices actually adjust to the reality of what's actually happening. Now, that said, however, on a bigger picture scale, I believe that the overall low supply of housing that we face here in Canada versus the huge demand created by immigration inevitably means that the housing market will continue to remain strong overall. So on the one hand, yes, I do think we are going to see an immediate correction, but overall, housing prices, that trend line will continue to go up year over year. So what does all this mean for you particular? Well, if you're in the Fraser Valley and in most sub areas, we are in a buyer's market right now, which means sellers are now competing with sellers, meaning they have to present their home in the best possible light, accommodate all showing requests, and price their home to sell. And for buyers, well, they can take more time to find the right home and negotiate a fair price. At the end of the day, navigating this market, it's going to require a strategic approach. So whether you're buying or you're selling, working with an experienced real estate agent is more important than ever because they can provide you with valuable insights and help you make informed decisions. The market is complex and it's constantly changing. So having an expert on your side is going to be invaluable. But go ahead, tell me, what are your thoughts? Go ahead, leave a comment below, share your thoughts, share your experiences. I'm always interested to hear. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm always happy to help where I can. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.